Eliza Greaves had always been a force to reckon with in the music world. Her violin spoke to audiences, moving them in ways words couldn't. But despite her fame, she was plagued by the thought that her greatest work was yet unwritten, a symphony that would transcend time and emotion. One dreary afternoon, she stumbled upon a hidden music shop in an unfamiliar alley. The shopkeeper, a gaunt man with unsettlingly hollow eyes, showed her a violin that seemed to hum faintly, as though alive. "It's not for everyone," he warned, but Eliza couldn't resist the pull it had on her. The moment she played her first note on the violin, the room darkened and an almost imperceptible whisper filled the air. The sound that emerged was unlike anything she had ever heard, otherworldly, chilling, and heartbreakingly beautiful. Eliza was hooked. She bought the violin despite the shopkeeper's ominous warnings. "Play it wisely, or it will play you." Eliza threw herself into her work, determined to harness the violin's magic to compose her magnum opus. As days turned into nights and nights blurred into weeks, the once bright apartment grew darker, both figuratively and literally. The music she played late at night became increasingly haunting, reverberating through the walls of the building. Neighbors began to complain of vivid nightmares and shadowy figures in their homes after hearing her melodies. One elderly tenant swore she saw a dark figure standing by her bed, its face featureless, as the music crescendoed from Eliza's apartment. Clara, Eliza's closest friend, tried to intervene. She visited one evening, but the apartment felt unnaturally cold, the air thick with an unexplainable heaviness. Eliza was pale, her fingers bandaged and trembling, yet she smiled with an unnerving intensity. "I'm so close, Clara. Just a few more nights, and they'll all see what I've created." Clara noticed something else, an odd movement in the shadows, like something watching them. She fled, her heart pounding, and resolved to come back with help. That night, the entire building was consumed by Eliza's music. It began softly, weaving through the walls like a siren's call, but as it intensified, it became almost unbearable. The melody was so powerful that some tenants found themselves unable to move, tears streaming down their faces as they listened. Suddenly, the lights in the building flickered and went out. Shadows surged like living things, creeping under doors and through cracks. The music grew frantic, chaotic, and then it stopped. A chilling silence followed, so oppressive that some neighbors held their breath, too terrified to move. When the lights returned, the building felt wrong, empty, as though something vital had been drained from it. The next morning, when the police broke into Eliza's apartment, they found her slumped over her desk. Her fingers were bloody, her face frozen in a serene yet eerie smile. The violin lay beside her, unscathed, and the sheet music on her desk was blank except for a single, unfamiliar sigil at the bottom. The violin emitted a faint hum, as if waiting for its next player. Clara, devastated and suspicious, couldn't shake the feeling that something darker was at play. She retrieved the violin from the police under the guise of wanting to preserve Eliza's legacy. The moment she touched it, she felt an icy tendril wrap around her heart. Determined to uncover the truth, Clara delved into the violin's history. Through archives and folklore, she discovered its chilling origin. It was crafted centuries ago by a luthier obsessed with creating the perfect instrument. He performed a dark ritual, binding a piece of his soul into the violin. It was said the violin amplified the emotions of its player, but at a terrible cost. It consumed their life force, feeding on their passion until there was nothing left. The sigil on Eliza's sheet music matched ancient symbols used in summoning rituals. Clara realized that Eliza's obsession had unknowingly awakened something dark, something that now lingered in the violin. Clara's nightmares began almost immediately after bringing the violin home. She heard faint melodies in the dead of night, and the shadows in her apartment seemed to move on their own. One night, she woke to find the violin resting on her bed, though she had locked it in a closet. Terrified but resolute, Clara decided to destroy it. She sought out the old shopkeeper, who reluctantly revealed the only way to end the curse. She must play a final melody, one that celebrated life and defied the despair the violin thrived on. But if she faltered, the violin would claim her soul. Clara composed through tears and fear, her hands trembling as she placed the violin beneath her chin. The first note was like stepping into a storm, but she pressed on, pouring every joyful memory she had into the music. Shadows clawed at the walls, and the air grew cold as the violin fought back. Finally, Clara played the last note, a soaring, triumphant sound that echoed like sunlight breaking through clouds. The violin shattered in her hands, releasing a deafening, inhuman wail. As the shards disintegrated into ash, the oppressive weight lifted and the shadows receded. Eliza's spirit, or what remained of it, appeared briefly, her face free of torment. She whispered, "Thank you," before fading away. Clara, exhausted but alive, knew she had saved others from Eliza's fate. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that some part of the violin still lingered, waiting for the next soul to find it. Months later, Clara passed by another music shop. In the window sat a violin, gleaming faintly as though alive, and it hummed